Tonight, Vozzo, Farmer and McInerney. I don't like to haggle, Tom, but we're too short, according to me. Where are they?
Fire away, Dennis.
Lost in the bowels. Knocked down. A chance here for Scott Thompson. Overran the footy. Polo kicked into a teammate. It comes to Otten. The hand pass came from Darty. This is Symes. Kicks it out towards the wing in front. Petrenko. Petrenko, lively customer. Tough. Kicks inside the forward 50. On the lead, Moran. Did he juggle it across the line? Apparently not. Mark will stand.
Played an interesting role last week for the Crows, often in defensive role on the tall backs for the Bombers, Dustin Fletcher in particular.
There's McKay. Don't try and creep in, Bruce. I've highlighted your absence.
She's the lift.
McKay. You got a note from Epstein's mother. Down towards the forward pocket. The mark is taken nicely by the big boy, McAvoy. Chain of hand passes. Graham to the opposite pocket. Montagna over the top. There's Peake. Goddard. Graham, who was involved earlier, goes around the boundary. Armitage allowed to play on. Back to Graham. They're certainly sharing it around. Peake to Armitage. Runs inside the centre square. 3 men to pick from. Del Santo takes the mark. Kicks inside the forward 50. Gamble. Running hard back towards the square. Jones. Well, he should have used Jones there. He just ambled a bit. There's Revolt on a lead. Jones ran really hard inside the forward 50. You can see him down there in the left full forward pocket. Gamble, though, thinks he can do the distance. Gamble is wrong. This is to the left-hand side. Brucey?
We've made it. So, first score. He's been good lately, Gamble. I know Tom spoke to Ross Lyon about him before the match. 6 goals in his last 2. Had one reasonable season for the Cats, didn't he, where he played a bit of footy, 13 games and over 20 goals. So the Crows,
they're on here.
Van Berlo, Moran and McKay with good run. Now, can he find a target? Well, it was sort of half and half. Dangerfield, and then a slip through Petrenko. Gilbert held up pretty well. Dempster's little gift to Jones. Armitage, he'll be pleased he's not the sub tonight. He has been for the last couple of weeks. And Gilbert off the side a bit, but it's okay. And Goddard seemingly running back into pretty good touch. Del Santo, he'd be in front of the best and fairest. Revolt, 60 metres out. Here's the subject for Luke and also for Lee pre-match. He just pops at the centre half forward. Van Berlo's half volley. And then Armitage can't quite break through. On the up polo. Milne, he's got the first.
They're going to be playing a high possession game by the look of St Kilda. You haven't just look at the basic numbers: 10 kicks, 15 handballs, 25 disposals for their first score. They're just getting a lot of numbers around the footy, and use those numbers to try and move the ball by hand.
Well, we wondered who might go to Montagna. It's Doughty who's actually picking him up. Montagna started half forward, pushes up to the ground. The bloke they are allowing to go through at the moment, the Adelaide Crows, is Del Santo, who's already had a couple of important touches in the midfield.
Milne, back-to-back opening goals. Could take the all up and let it ride, Bruce. Week to week, eh?
Sounds like a gamble.
Hasn't got it yet, but it's going his way. Polo over the top. Jones feeds it back. Graham's been very busy, goes with a long hand pass. Schneider stayed on his feet, did well. Del Santo, Crows having trouble touching the footy. Here's Armitage inside the forward 50, goes down towards full forward. Milne again.
Really significant matchup this one. Stephen Milne started the game exceptionally well. John Cox started the game last week well in an attacking role. We spoke, Lee, that if he has an Achilles heel as a defender, it's as a defender.
Well, playing full back. I mean, basically, Stephen Milne plays quite well as a small size full forward, leads at the footy, and those players often give John Cox trouble.
Milne got 5 goals against Adelaide round 203. He's on that sort of pace and better. That's his second.
Well, last Friday night, the equation for Essendon was what to do with Graham Johncock because he was running amok off half-back. Now, I'd imagine the conversation's slightly different in the Adelaide box now. You just see the work rate here of Stephen Milne, just at the top of the screen, out of screen now, but will come in And Graham Johncock's just given him too much leg room, and he's a fantastic attacking, rebounding defender. But one-on-one out of the square, I think he has limitations.
You would be thinking that Adelaide are just trying to not play Johncock on any particular player, but playing whoever, say Peake is upfield, whoever's the smaller half forward, he's the one they bring him up, not the deep forward player.
And the added question mark over his mobility with the hip injury last week.
So great start for Milne. Jacobs to Sloan, to Symes, to Tambling, and now Thompson. What a fine season he's having. Kicking the ball out wide. So Jacobs quickly getting out. The Jacobs-McAvoy clash will be a good one tonight. Free kick.
Hands to the back.
Gunston's free.
On the full. On the full.
So Gunston back in the team. He kicked 4 for Central Districts last weekend, Gunston. Played 6 out of 7 in a little burst in the middle of the year. So he's 55 metres out. That's a long kick. Tippett's outnumbered. And a good mark in the front. Taken by Cozzy. So the Saints now to build.
Goddard. Ray had to wait. Bit too easy. Goddard against the boundary, and this ball goes out of bounds on the full. So great start by Stephen Milne. 2 early goals. St Kilda lead by 13 points. Mind you, I reckon coming into a game, if the last vision you had of your opponent was in a wheelchair, I might get a couple of early goals. That's the sort of build-up I needed.
It's a big improvement in a week, isn't it?
I'll say. Riley goes back.
And the Crows will have to work it here. There's a huge, massive numbers of St Kilda players in the defensive 50.
Johncock to Thompson. Thompson. Well, Tippett appeared to be pushed to the back. No free. Dawson to Ray. And again, they've got the numbers. Jones, very nimble Jones. Dawson. Not so good. Opportunity for Wright, who got the opening goal, I think, last week for Adelaide. Just pops it over to a man who put it 3 last week. And that's Dangerfield.
Well, on world record pace, St Kilda have had 29 handballs in about, what, the first 7 minutes of play. I don't know, they're getting numbers back, makes it hard for the Crows to score, but it is Russian roulette trying to have that many handballs to bring the ball out of your back 50. It only needs 1 errant handball, and it's turned over in a bad part of the ground.
Patrick Dangerfield then, 32 goals for the season. Picked 10 in the 07 draft. Talented player, this not beyond him. It's working back, but not enough. No breezes here, like at Amy Stadium. Just a minor score.
Just on my quick mathematics, St Kilda are going to have about 480 handballs, I think, by the end of the night at this pace.
Jack Stephen, little short one. Nick Del Santo. Taken in the same draft as Luke Hodge, obviously, Del Santo and Jardin Ball, but also taken 1 spot after Brent Riley, who tonight plays his 150th. So Riley at 12 for the Crows, Del Santo at 13. That's a poor handball by Cozzy. Ray tries to break through. Van Billa used his body well. Gunston clever. Otten flashes it out wide. Sloan wanted it hard and then threw the ball forward. Henderson, Sloan got his own footy back. Petrenko, then Van Berlo. Clever kick, actually. Kicks to the top of the square. Good mark, though, against Dangerfield, taken by Fisher. Trying to work out what they're going to do with Fisher, Tom. We're talking pre-match. I mean, Corns kept him to 10 disposals, didn't he, Chad Corns? But if you don't play on him, he's going to get 20 off.
Stephen careless. Kicked it to an oncoming player. Tippett gets it across towards Wright. Was he pushed to the back? Apparently not.
And you mentioned Sam Fisher. It looks like St Kilda are getting back to their defensive best with their structures, and that plays into Sam Fisher's uncontested mark and rebounding game.
Goddard, beautiful disposal. Schneider to space. And now Ray with a chance. Goes towards half forward. Nick Revolt's got it. He can run on. Kazitsky is free running down the side of the ground. Milne, not paid a mark, bit stiff. Downey gets it across towards Otten. Otten goes towards the outer side, and the mark is taken by Riley. And Milne on the lead. Not paid the mark. Crowd wanting that or a push in the back. They'll take either. Riley, centering kick to Doughty. To Johncock. Forward of right half back.
And then Johncock down the line. Henderson. Josh just tells me, Lee, you're talking about stats. 10 minutes and not a stoppage yet.
And it feels that way. It's
Just flowing, isn't it?
Yep.
High possession, move the ball quickly, but they're not going from A to B that quickly, but not holding the ball.
So Doughty, he was the 9th Crow to play 200. John Cock the 10th tonight.
And Tambling, I think, is the player who's moved on to Milne after his start, as Lee mentioned, to push John Cock further up the ground.
So John Cock getting a bit of ball now and goes short to Mackay. Had a quiet one against the Bombers after a good match the previous week against Sydney, and he's game back, kicks to half. Well, that's a good grab. He was so impressive early, Jacobs, last week, wasn't he?
The Crows do kick the ball long, so they need a target to kick to, and he's been providing that.
Well, can Dangerfield do for the Crows what Milne's been doing early for the Saints? Because I know he's a bigger player, but he's a medium forward, isn't he, that can lead from the square and kick a goal. That looked a mark, didn't it?
Lucky not to be paid, I would think.
So 11 goals, 3 from set shots, and that's including the miss from the other side tonight. I feel like with Jacobs, they've got a good ruckman for the future, the Crows.
20 gone! 20 seconds gone! You're right. No, I said 20 studies his approach. 1 metre, Sam, that's it.
Nice kick. That's a lovely, lovely boot. So he gets it, and Adelaide get one back.
The Jacobs transfer from Carlton to Crows is one of those win-win situations. Even if he was still at Carlton, he's probably going to be, you know, third in line, maybe at least behind Warnock and Cruiser. Hampson's in there as well, so good pick-up for the Crows.
Had to be pinpoint there. The build-up came from the mark, contested mark from Jacobs. He was very good last week. I do like this matchup from an Adelaide point of view. If they can engage Sam Fisher through a quality player like Patrick Dangerfield, that's a win for the Crows.
Play on!
McAvoy gives it to Jones back in the centre. Puts it inside the forward 50. Kazetsky gets rid of his opponent, leads back in the race. Good pressure came from Van Berlo twice, and he gets it out of bounds.
From the Crows' point of view, Tippett's the one who can be like their X factor. If he has a good night against Dawson, that's really important, you think, for the Crows' winning chances.
McAvoy knocked it down. Van Berlo's hand pass intended for Symes. Well done, McKay. Moran, Henderson. Well, Otten eventually found something. It was his opponent. After fumbling, the ball rolled over his shoulders. Montagna does brilliantly. Gives it across towards Del Sando. Back to the running player, Schneider. And he's marked only about 30 metres out. 15 metres in from the line. Symes the worse for wear.
Marks where he is.
Cut lip. Maybe worse. Feeling for the cheekbone there. So does that tell us about the contact? It does.
20 gone. Still on it, Nathan.
Always hard for a tall man against a smaller man, and Revolt arriving at speed. So Schneider to stretch this lead. It's currently at 5, make that 11.
Looks a challenge for the Crows at the moment with the small forwards for St Kilda. Obviously, Stephen Milne started the game well. On that occasion, Schneider just got behind the Crows defenders. They're small defenders. Obviously, John Cock's been mentioned and Tambling the other. They're not man-on-man type defenders who can lock down.
They're attackers, not defenders, aren't they, as a principle?
Well, Patrick, they got off to a reasonably good start, the Saints, the first 2 goals, but you've been able to just maybe edge your way back into this game?
Yeah, we have. They certainly started fast and really handballed out of defence and tried to create their run from there, which they did. So I think we've stopped it a bit with the forwards pushing up a little bit further and able to maintain that pressure. So I think that's where we've got to stop them from generating their run out of defence.
You've got to be very patient when you go forward with the ball. They get the numbers back.
Yeah, they do. So we've got to be, like you said, patient and just wait for that option to bob up and keep moving up as a forward.
Thanks for your time.
The way and Patrick spoke about it, the way St Kilda get their numbers back, you really have to try and find a long-range kicker that you might be able to get, you know, set shot on the 50-metre line.
Well, the bloke talking to Tim can kick a long ball.
Let's have a look at the mass numbers around the contest at the moment.
So Ray goes back to Goddard. Goddard's handball to Gamble. Good footwork by Gamble, but then a poor handball and a boundary throw in.
Essentially, when you look a kick forward of where the ball is, there's 4 Crows players, 1 St Kilda player. It's, gee, they've got to be able to maintain that possession, St Kilda, because they just can't kick it. They've got too many men back.
McAvoy just won the tap. Gamble again. First time he's played against the Crows. Jones squeezes it out forward.
This is Talia. Tambling. Lost it. Milne. Straight to Riley. Finds a way through. Well done. Back it comes. John Cock goes forward. Right. Petrenko. Did nicely, Petrenko. Didn't really move, but created space. He comes to Otten. Otten forward at the wing. Goes inside the forward 50. Low down. Gunston couldn't get there in time. It pitched just in front of him. Little 1-2 out of the back pocket. Then the ball came across from Del Santo to Clark. And now we've got It goes back to Fisher. Wonderful defender. Fisher to the opposite pocket. Del Santo again. Long telling kick. Gamble getting loose on that outer side. Nothing much down the line. Mill battling too. Gets under the football. He's going to get a free kick. Wow. Very careless by Tambling. Must have known he had help in front, and that man was running back hard and probably would have got to the ball. But no doubting, that was a kick. Talia was the man who was making up number 3.
No,
Richard
no,
free.
right,
Yeah, on the full.
up there, Adelaide free. Not forceful enough to really strike, but very close, right?
Downfield free to
against
Adelaide.
Montagna.
Yeah, that's
forward
fine.
with the footy.
Michael, don't! Michael, got it, that's it.
So that's the explanation. So against Montagna.
You mentioned the Montagna-Doherty matchup. Yeah, just a little bit of a push and shove that the umpire penalised Montagna.
So Milne misses out. Look at Stevie Big Cross missing a shot for goal. He's a long way out, I know, but he would have done something tricky. Del Santo Henderson, well done. And then lobs it long inside the 50. Tippett trying to get a crack at it. He couldn't. Dawson did well there. Out wide to Stephen. And the Saints, now Peake's been terrific over the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks. Running hard, 2 running bounces.
Kicks it down towards the attacking 50. In the back again. Well, not sure he brought the hands up that time. Needs a remote.
Clip of the ankles, I reckon.
Oh, yes, that's a push. What do you think, Tom?
I thought it was a clip of the ankles, but on second inspection, there's a push there too.
That's Dan replays. Tambling along the line. Otten's got it. 19 plays 8. This quarter's gone fast. Only 6.5 minutes till quarter time. I suppose that means it's been very entertaining. Non-stop stuff. Claiming the mark, Jacobs. Well, he tried it on for size, nothing doing, and gave it to Sloan, who kicks it down towards the attacking 50. Pushed across the line by Fisher, and the umpire says throw it in.
Both sides working extremely hard to win the ball back, but look up and have nothing to kick to. I think this is a mark. It's been short-changed there a bit, Jacobs.
So the ruck work done by Moran for the Crows. Up against Kosicki. Had it a wild at Armitage, but well done. Polo's handball. Created a bit of a problem there, but Dempster got down low. Cozzy again. Goddard, left foot. Well done by Otten at the back of Milne, but Milne's contest was okay. Pushed forward by Ray. And then Revolt and Rutten. So the 2 R's going at it. Tambling to Rutten. Back to Van Berlo. Well, he coughed it up. He was under pressure. They're on their way here. Schneider can feel a goal coming. Gamble puts it out in front. He's got his second, and the Saints have got their 4th.
I don't know whether it was a lack of awareness or a lack of confidence to use the ball inside then, but Van Berlo had the option. A release play, I think it might have even been Talia across half back, but obviously didn't see him and tried to get the ball to Thompson, but the turnover eventuated.
Can't be a worse place to turn the ball over on that kind of play. 70 metres from goal, your defence is completely unpositioned out of play. They were under pressure all the way, but gee, there was no awareness then, was there?
St Kilda small forwards are up and about. Stephen Milne started on fire. Schneider's got a couple, and Ryan Gamble also getting heavily involved.
Good at 25 goals last year, Adam Schneider. He's got 15 this season so far. 2 tonight. A couple of Crows tangled. Thompson kept his head, did brilliantly. Nicely played by Tambling, smothered off the boot. Vince slaps it backwards into the path of Jones. Chance for the Saints as a result. Del Santo, that's untidy. Bounces obligingly though. Goddard gets through from the line of the square. Long down towards full forward. Milne will get a free kick. It's like a swap meet down there.
He's a good body player, Stephen Milne. He knew where the ball was going. He pushed his body into John Cock to try and protect the area, and John Cock was very uncontrolled, really, in the way he approached that contest. Not comfortable in the contest close to goal, Graham, John Cock.
So after giving away 2 free kicks, he gets one and makes the most of it. He's got 3 goals in the opening term. Berrigan made his best against these Crows as 5.
Might be trying to change their matchups a little down there, the Crows, but they don't seem to be working that hard to get John Cock out to the half-back line. They seem happy enough for him to be playing virtually on that small full-back position against Mill.
4th week in a row, he's kicked 3, Stevie Milne. They've got 5 goals from 8 inside 50s.
You see right here, the key for any marking forward, and we'll say Stephen Milne is a marking target at this stage, is to protect the drop zone of the ball. So he's done that, propped. On that occasion, drew the free kick.
So McKay kicks the ball forward, but the Saints to repel again. Goddard in good nick. Stephen, McAvoy, good give, and then Gilbert run down. Play on called. Tammy got in hard. Petrinko, quick kick away to half-forward Clark to mop it up. Interesting stage in his career, Clark. He's always at an interesting stage in his career, I think. But he played well against the Eagles last week. He had 20. Feel like he's just enjoying a good patch. Well, there you go. Back it comes to Fisher. And then Fisher short and goes to McAvoy.
Might be something about the turf in that pocket over there. We saw young McKenzie, I think it was, from the West Coast Eagles, have a bit of trouble.
Oh, Stephen, that's not a good moniker to tag around, is it? Like Mr. Interesting. Short one comes back towards the middle. It's like having the nickname Bad News. It says something. Across it comes towards Baker. Lays it off for rather Dawson. Hand pass comes forward from Dempster. There's a chance for Graham. He's been running off half-back a lot, particularly early, and he finds Revolt on the lead.
He's been up and about, as he always is, Nick Rewold, and covers so much territory, but these are the critical marks I mentioned before the game. He only takes a couple of inside 50 marks a game so far this year, and every time you take an inside 50 mark, you have a shot at goal. It's a long shot, but these are the ones that develop the status for the big forwards.
It's been such a rollercoaster ride when it comes to his kicking. Some of it has been horrendous. Not sure that was horrendous, but it was low. Down goes Thompson. Over the football, Tambling. An involuntary stumble out of the pack. Del Santo goes to ground. Rutten with strength tries to force his way out of there. Needs to be careful. Hanging on for grim death was Revolt, and the umpire will ball it up.
Head down, obviously, looking at the ball drop. It seemed a high ball drop. Not the result he was after.
So, not sure what sort of goal-kicking form he's in just yet. So, would you rather do that or kick the ball out of bounds on the fall?
On the ball, drag the back under.
Rutten just came forward on the mark of where he thought the mark was. The umpire obviously allowed it, but I'm not sure whether he just creeped a little way over.
I don't think either do a lot for your confidence, do they? So here's Doughty. He tries to control the kick to Moran, and McAvoy. Just feel, I mean, a lot written about McAvoy this week. He's just emerging. I mean, he was very good in the repeat grand final last year. Came in for Gardner, and he's a good player. Very good player. High draft pick. Those ruckmen take a while, those high draft picks, don't they? But he looks like he's fulfilling that promise. He's their man now. So Riley can't get through. And again, Well, I say again, we haven't had many stoppages, as we said, but it will be a ball up.
It'll be interesting to see the before and after photo of Ben McAvoy. I mean, just 3 years ago, he had nowhere near the shoulders and the bulk in his upper body that he now has.
Jacobs knocks it down into the path of Van Berlo. Hand passes back inside the defensive 50. Taken down was Riley over the top. Del Santo. Del Santo locks it in.
Opportunity held in.
And the umpire will ball it up. Tim?
Dempster's become a really good defensive player, a run-with type tagging player. He's gone to Vince. Vince hasn't touched the ball for the Crows.
No, and we said before the game, it hasn't been happy territory for him against St Kilda, averaging just 15 possessions over 4 games. Now, by contrast, over 4 games against Melbourne, he averages in the low 30s. So that's top to bottom in terms of his resume. Down goes Symes, and we'll have the ball up about 60 metres out. So the umpire right alongside the action, umpire Bozzo. Clock down to
St Kilda
time on.
St Kilda in the ruck, holding his arm down, can't get the ball. McAvoy!
Just over a minute till quarter time, as you can see.
Thank you.
So you heard the ump and the explanation. Back we go to Clark. And then Clark out very wide. Now Milne. He's had a brilliant opening term. John Cock gets the better of him that time. Milne's... Okay, you heard. So the advantage right. Playing it to Petrenko. Going back. And Gunston. Adelaide certainly need a late goal here. Petrenko had a fumble. Back to John Cock. To Otten. Under pressure. Ridden into the ground by Dempster. No free. And then Fisher's little give to Armitage. And then gets it back. Graham. Tackled by 2, including Sloane. And a ball up. So in stark contrast to last week, Adelaide off to a very slow start against the fast-starting Saints. We read about their fast starts this year, the fact that they're the #1 first-quarter team in terms of winning first quarters this season.
Polo through the body in, emerging with the football Dangerfield. Hacked out of there by McKay. Ricochets across towards a teammate in Vince. Gave the hand pass out. They move it inside the forward 50. Right a half chance. Downey the fumble. Goes back after the football. Slips it to Tippett. Petrenko. Petrenko's still going. Goes for the outside of the boot. Only as far as Dawson. Takes the defensive mark. Montagna goes to the outer side wing. Gamble has made that wing his own in this opening term and finishes up with the footy. Quarter time. Good start by the Saints. They lead it 5-1. They've only got the 2 goal scorers. That's 3 to Milne, 2 to Schneider, but sufficient to lead by 23 points on Friday Night Football.
The energy that he creates, there might be a lot more to come.
Friday night footy, start of the second term. Saints with a good lead over the Crows. Jacobs to Doughty, to Riley. And then Riley with a long ball in forward. Tippett caught underneath. Creates a collision. Dawson to Fisher, to Graham. Was going to use Clark and then decided Schneider was the option. Schneider, little dummy, then comes back inside. They've got a spring in their step at the moment, the Saints. Clark just that step too far. He often does it then. Thompson fended off. Back, but he coughed it up, and Montagna had a couple of options. Decided to go to full forward. Gamble. It's a free kick. Just hanging on to Talia.
Come behind the mark, Daniel. Daniel, come behind the mark. Take your time back on.
He's actually played that really well. The young defender kept his eyes on the ball and got to the drop zone, engaged Ryan Gamble, and won the free kick.
Rory Sloane, who played so well last week, goes short straight up the middle. Doughty, normally a good kick, takes a risk here, but it's okay. Scott Thompson on the defensive 50, demanding something of his teammate coming up the ground. That's Dangerfield. Took the mark. Back to Sloane. Had it moments ago across half-back. Kicks down towards half-forward on the bounce now. Tippett was the target. Spills behind the pack. McAvoy, strong body. Didn't move him very far. Fisher feeds a hand pass back. Dawson goes for the boundary line. And/or, he would argue, Fisher, and we'll have a boundary throw in. Well, they crashed into McAvoy, but like a giant oak, he went nowhere. Now 2 big guys lock up. Hooked down behind brilliantly by Jacobs. Taken by Riley over the top. Well, a couple of players from the Crows got in each other's way. Van Berlo was coming through and Otten, and as a result, they've got some problems. Armitage, release Montagna, finds Revolt. Okay, another adventure coming up.
Well, it's a full distance kick. A lovely kick by Montagna. Just a lovely weight. He knows that Riewoldd's got a good leap from the front position, so as long as he puts it out there, let him jump into the footy.
So Jack, Nick.
Yeah, Rutten's tried to con him on the mark a bit.
He's trying to help him. There goes the kick. I did it. It's through the middle.
It's not done him in leading fashion, but that's the second of his inside 50 mark, second shot at goal from long distance. It's amazing how you can accumulate goals by leading into that space inside the 50-metre arc.
Very significant stat down the bottom there, uncontested possession. You can see it on screen. It was a way of forcing Kilda players to one Adelaide player. They've got their spread going. It's a deficiency of the Crows to defend against that sort of spread and provides a really easy entry for the Kilda Football Club.
So Adelaide 5 goals behind. We'll be talking to Nick Riewoldt at half-time in the St Kilda room. So he's made a promising start here with a couple of marks inside the 50. John Cock, did he throw it?
St Kilda. Thank you, straight to him, thank you. Mark's there. Time back on.
So Polo, who was quickly off, and then little kick to Del Santo. Had 9 disposals in the opening term.
Thanks, Nick.
He's averaged 32 over his last 4 matches, Del Santo. You feel like he's in nearly career best form, and he's been a fine player for, what, the last 5 seasons, I guess 6 seasons. He's really dug in, hasn't he, over the last month or two, and helped to regenerate this team. And that's a very, very good kick. It's gone all the way.
It really has been a great show of character as much as anything for Nick Del Santo this year. Had, like a lot of St Kilda players, some trouble during the off-season, but he hasn't missed a beat, and Bruce is absolutely right. His last month's been outstanding, and he hasn't been one of the players who's wavered, but he has taken his game to another level in the last month as St Kilda really starting to roll. And right now it's starting to get very ugly for the Adelaide Crows.
Well, since halftime last week, the Crows have kicked 3 goals, and the opponents have kicked 17.
Got no defensive coordination either. When the ball goes into the Crows' back half, they just don't look like they're working as a team at all.
Jacobs hooks it down, trying to soccer it forward. There was Thompson. Jones slides underneath him. Thompson appeals to the umpire.
Players holding it in.
Krzyzewski on top of Jones, and now the 50. That was a comedy of errors by the Saints. Umpire Farmer all over it.
Tried to flick the ball back to him, Krzyzewski, but the rule is once you got it in your hands, you've got to get to back to your opponent on the full.
Yep, thank you. We'll hop in there.
So Thompson, held by the 50, should convert from here. Goal umpire goes a long way, but it's okay.
St Kilda players holding it in. Jared, stay away. No need.
The free kick was certainly there. I think Clinton Jones probably feels aggrieved that he was the player who committed the free kick, but Krzyzewski was on top of him holding it in. And the 50-metre penalty, we'll get a good look at it here. There's a scrimmage there. Jones is on top, so he probably committed the first.
The team holding the ball time, I think, is what the umpires played.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And then this is unforgivable. As Dennis mentioned, you know that you've got to give the ball back on the full.
He was giving the ball back, but just...
That'd drive you nuts, Lee, wouldn't it?
A foot short of where it needed to be, just to be an automatic free kick or a standard free kick without the 50.
Felt like the Crows needed a gift and they got one, didn't they? So hopefully that'll help them. Thompson with the goal. Del Santo, well done. Jones gets this one out of the centre. Just belts it forward. Bounce eluded Milne. Well played Montagna. Held up in the tackle. Enabled Milne to get a bit of a crack. And now Armitage on the wrong side for him. But a good kick to the top of the square. Talia building it back. And John Cock building it over. But if you take it right back to Talia, they're a fair way away. But in the end, John Cock under pressure. Just thinking about the Saints. 13-4 last week. 17-7 the week before. 7-1, that one rush, but they've been really accurate.
They've had an incredible patch of accuracy in this last month.
So McKay, good tackle by D'Alessandro again. And then Stephen DiPolo wanted to go, I think, but he's given it to Goddard, to Graham. He's a chance. Well, he went the distance, but it's a poor kick.
Yes, his eyes light up Jason Graham when he can run towards the 50-metre line, because he's normally a good, long, accurate kick. Didn't hit that one so well.
John Cock, not a good kick. Didn't get much of it. Came out slowly and directly to Revolt. He goes across the ground, finds Dempster to the kick-off line. Terrific grab at the back by Kozetzky. Won the battle of the strength.
He ended up being matched up on Andy Otten there, and he misjudged it, but he's a strong mark if he can just stand full stretch. Kozetzky.
Going at the Saints' 8th then. Puts it through. So a quick reply to that 50-metre goal at the other end by Scott Thompson.
When Adelaide are trying to run the ball out of the fence, they really don't seem to have enough go-to players, and I think Ben Hart might be with us at the moment.
Yeah, Ben Hart's with us. Ben, what do you do to stop this right now? What's the first step, do you reckon?
Yeah, at the moment, we just need to get out the pressure on the ball a little bit better than what we have, and we've just given the ball back to them a few too many times.
The tackling pressure, the basis of what you mean by the pressure on the ball, Ben?
Yeah, no doubt. We've been a little bit reactive in that area, so we need to be first at it. Lay some tackles, I think, we're a bit low on that count at the moment.
And Ben, any way to get Bernie Vincent to the game?
Yeah, I think we might try and get in through the middle a bit more and get his hands on it through there.
Appreciate that, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So the assistant coach of the Crows. So Adelaide with a lot to think about at the moment. Polo, good job there by Riley, but Gamble able to just get a foot to it, and then Riley pulled off the ball. Not sure if he had it. Then Gamble, Otten, and then Otten can't quite get a kick away. Sloan, I think it might be a ball up. It is. Just thinking about the goal kickers, for the right guys, I think, for the Saints. It's Revolt, Cozzy, it's Milne, it's Schneider, a midfielder, D'Alessandro. Cozzy's almost the forgotten man. You forgot that he played for the Saints for the last month. Suddenly he's back, and you feel like
this is his 7th game for the year. Second, they're a much better team structurally when he's there.
Good mark, Gunston.
From the Roy Laird University at Elizabeth.
Thanks, Kurt.
Just jabs it in towards centre-half forward.
Hold out, guys, hold out.
This is Van Berlo, the skipper, again. Takes something off the footy. Intended for Tippett. He's going to get a free kick.
Well, it's going to be hard for him to win the contest. Every time he goes for the footy, there's about 4 St Kilda jumpers in the contest.
It's a line, mate.
He's not going to get any one-on-ones.
Yeah, you're on that line, though. Hold that line.
And you see the Matt St Kilda numbers back.
1 metre now.
They've done their homework. They know the Crows kick the ball long inside their forward 50, so the Crows will need to mix up and drop some balls short if they're going to be effective going forward.
And no doubting that free kick. I think Zach Dawson anxious to watch it on the big screen, but his left arm looping over the shoulder of Tippett. So Tippett, who was goalless last week, a chance from about 40 metres out. Kick is on the way. It's way off to the right and through for a minor score. And Tippett vents his spleen on poor old Zach, who is steadying the mark. He's got problems of his own. Ray Montagna goes short towards half-back. Schneider with 2 goals to his name. Comes up, takes the mark. Chips it out wide. Gamble again, pressing up the ground. Had a lot of ball, the defensive side of the wing. In the first term on the other side of the ground. And now we find him here. Goes along the line. Revolt is outnumbered. In front, Rutten. It was very good work. And the mark was taken by Moran. Rutten just keeping Revolt out of the contest.
So that kick to Petrenko. It's been good over the last month, Petrenko. Just his appetite for the contest has been impressive. Van Berlo kicks to the space. Tippett will get it. Gee, I thought for a moment with Dangerfield charging in and Tippett, I was thinking about the Gabba last Sunday, but Dangerfield just eased up in the end. Interesting with Tippett, he had career high 20 disposals last Friday night. I wouldn't have believed that if I hadn't read it, because it felt like he had no impact on the match.
Yeah, well, you expect the big guys to be having shots at goal, kicking goals. I mean, the primary role of apart from the ruck spells every now and again, is to be a goal kicker, ball getter in the forward 50.
He's got a good record in it. He kicked 7 against the Bombers here. It was a poor kick about 2 minutes ago. This important. And again, a poor kick. Daddy Tim.
Well, Ben Hart said they might put Bernie Vince behind the ball, but Dempster's gone with him, so he's actually playing. He actually said on the ball, they're putting him behind the ball. He's going to play across half back and see if he can't get a couple of cheap kicks there and occupy some space in front of Nick Revolt. They're trying to get him into the game as best they can. Dempster's done a terrific job just tagging him and keeping out of the game.
Tim, how would you treat that situation with Bernie Vince?
Well, I think they're doing the right thing, trying to get him into the game, just trying to get him a couple of cheap touches if they possibly can. I think he's had just the 1 touch so far in this game, so he's had no impact whatsoever.
Dempster on the other side runs down the line, just drops it. It's an ugly kick from the left boot. Mill did nicely. The hand pass from McAvoy goes out of bounds, but Peake will get a free kick. Interesting, we touched on it before the game, that he really has struggled against St Kilda, Bernie Vince. If you were listing his performances and averages against clubs, this is the club he struggles most against in getting the football. 15 possessions a game, as this one comes from Fisher to Gilbert, who can run on. Down towards left half forward, pulls it inside the forward 50. Armitage was up, knocked it down to McAvoy, cast in the role of a rover. Don't worry, he won't get far on foot. He's dragged down and will have a ball up.
Anyone suggested that Bernie Vince might get himself into the game? Like when you mentioned David Sagarakis, who had a bad first half, he had a fantastic second half. Like sometimes you just got to actually persevere as an individual player.
John Cobb, that was a brilliant take to Henderson. Out wide, Tippett made the contest. Good mark against Dawson. But you know, Dennis, Adelaide have got them just what they want them. 8 goals to 2. That's what it was at half-time last week.
St Kilda suckers, eh, Bruce?
Oh. Just on Bernie Vince, we saw a couple of Friday nights ago where he played on Picken, and Picken did a number on him also, and he couldn't shake the tag. So certainly something to work on for him.
So Tamling just too tall for Henderson, perhaps. Then back to Henderson, to Thompson. Then Thompson sweeps the ball back. Here is Vince. He's been averaging 28 disposals over the last 3 weeks. Oh. Good kick, Riley. Well, gee, Gunston should have taken that one. And then Goddard with a beautiful spear and finds Gamble.
Gamble right on the wing this time. Looks down towards half forward, told to play on. Not much long for him. Revolt is running back now, having made a solid lead, so he has to compete. And he's holding on to Rutten. So Rutten gets the 3. Rutten is playing very well. If the kick's not as it needs to be, he's doing a lot of that. This time he's rewarded with the free. Last time a mate took the mark. He goes to the opposite pocket. Out there is Talia, likely looking customer. High, long ball, Petrenko. Adelaide with not much up ahead on that side of the ground. He's waiting for them. He's beckoning them across. Like the cab stand at the airport. He wants them to come forward. Well, the mark is taken by Fisher after all of that. You can beckon all you like. He goes in short to Jones. Jones slips a hand pass away. This is McAvoy. McAvoy across the ground at Clark. Clark spots Stephen on the move. A quiet game last week. Just 13 possessions after in the previous 7 weeks topping 20 each time. Looks back towards the middle. McAvoy's got it at centre half back. Over the top. Now they can run. They've got a runner outside. Jones needs to go back. He does. Farron Ray inside the centre square. Goes across the ground. Opportunity for Graham. Nobody near him. Up ahead though. Well, he's got the choice of 2. Splitting the difference was John Cox. And that was no way to do it. He was caught in no man's land. On the mark now, and the football with Snyder, who's booted a couple.
Just on the screen before, we saw Sean Dempster calling for the ball. He's taken Bernie Vince, we've mentioned a few times this quarter, deep. And that would really rub salt in the wound if he landed one.
So Snyder with the lead already at 34. It's looking bad for Adelaide, but we said that last week about the Bombers, as Bruce highlighted. There goes the kick from Schneider. Got onto that one. That's a magnificent kick. He's got 3. Split the middle, and they get to 40 now.
not something we tend to expect so much of St Kilda, but their run and spread is actually really finding the Crows out there. The Crows actually aren't doing too bad in contested footy part of it, but when the ball splits and spreads, it's the St Kilda midfield, which has now got most of their complement back out there, who's dominating.
See the goal there from Snyder. Over the last month, St Kilda have been the #1 competition at denying the opposition ball. They're doing it again to Adelaide. They do that mainly by controlling the tempo of the game. As a result, denying oppositions inside 50s and denying scores. They're right back to that ruthless defensive best at the moment.
First time Snyder's kicked 3 against the Crows. He'd actually kicked 2 goals only in his last 6 matches coming in tonight. So this is a real bonus for him in the club with 3 in the first half. And Revolt just gets rid of Rutten and takes a big, strong mark. So, Lee, I think that's 3 marks inside 50.
Inside 50, his 3rd shot at goal. And one thing about Rutten, he's going to be able to lead off Rutten a little bit because that's not Rutten's strength, but he is really big and strong in the body, Rutten. So in that wrestle under the footy, he did a really good job, Rewald, to just basically outposition him, outbalance him.
And gets it. So Revolt's kicked 2.
Revolt coming off for a spell. That certainly looked dangerous up forward. Very potent, in fact, going into this game. With all the positives of the Saints in the last month or so, they still have had an inability to convert score once inside forward 50. Certainly not the case tonight. Turnover there. Just need to be super clean through the middle. And that's St Kilda's 9th mark inside their forward 50. They're only averaging 11 for the season, so...
He's a little lucky to get away with that. I don't know whether he turned out of the contest. Anyway, the umpire allowed it to happen.
Kazitsky goes up, knocks it down. Stolen by McKay. The high ball down towards half forward, hangs a long time in the air and lands in the lap of Tippett, who was 4th in the queue. Now this will test him. He missed to the right last time, going for a bit of extra distance. Didn't get the sweet connection. Watch this. He's just lurking at the back there and suddenly, somehow, takes the mark. In that last goal at the other end, what about Dean Polo? That's quite a story, Dean Polo. Richmond lost patience eventually. But there was a guy who got 3 Brownlow votes in his very first game for the Tigers. That's a good-looking kick. Lovely effort, just short, and the mark is taken in defence by Kazitsky, who looks on tonight, plays on to Goddard. Goddard not so much at the ball in this turn. Gives it to Ray. He's been busy. To Jones. This is the situation really where they're most dangerous, and sensing that, getting across is Otten. Applied the tackle. Petrenko comes in short. Mark is taken by Jacobs. Backs off the man on the mark. Comes to Riley. Now Riley is about 70 metres out from goal. Tippett wants a high ball. He ignores that. Goes to the leading Dangerfield instead. Ball bounces outside the 50. Comes back to Henderson. Trying to wrong foot Fisher. I wouldn't advise that as his attorney. Goes back to Riley. Riley across the ground. Telling kick, a beauty. Finds Thompson. And Thompson holds up alongside the centre circles. Now he goes to Petrenko.
Has to move it quickly, and he does. Otten, bad mistake. Can he get away from Ray? Don't think so. Gets half a handball forward, boundary throw-in. Gee, so deliberate. That passage of play, if you played it again, Lee, wouldn't look good from Adelaide's point of view. From the moment Riley kicked the ball forward and the way they worked the ball back.
Just 2 or 3 bad fumbles, you know, drop marks. I mean, a couple of game is just really so noticeable with the skills of the modern player.
Well, that's a poor kick coming out from
wasn't much better, was it?
Gilbert. And Moran should have a shot. Well, no, he's going to go on and kick the ball to Jacobs. Should have had a shot. It's a very slow kick inside, and then Stephen gets it. But he coughs it up to Tambling, and then Tambling wobbles it back. Gilbert runs into the back of Cozzy. It's normally Cozzy doing that to his teammates. And Thompson drops it down. Dennis just scrubbed the last minute and a half. Take it off the VTR.
What about Moran? Just had a shot at goal. He's a powerful kick. St Kilda bring it to the opposite pocket. Mark is taken by Clark. Now I know because I was talking to Josh about this on the phone the other day. According to his state-funded research, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. He worked long and hard on that. As this ball goes out of bounds on the full, it's going to be a resultant free kick to Doughty. He'll put it back in. Just got to take your chances and back yourself in sometimes, as Cranberry did last week, and virtually turned the game from the same spot. Kick in from Otten, and the mark is dropped down there initially. Henderson in trouble, flips it across towards Moran, trying to force his way through was Polo. Well done, Polo. Comes back to him. Did nicely, gave it to Stephen. Jones is gone. Boot to ball just in the nick of time. Stephen, Nakazitsky, and they weather the storm. Here's Goddard out of the back pocket. That's a telling kick. What a beauty to the outer side. Schneider's got it. Where's the next link in the chain? Not visible at the moment.
Goddard again.
Oh, Ricky, hold!
Such a quarterback type, isn't he, Goddard? You love it when he's in control of a match and sets it up across half-back, moves forward. It's normally a great kick. He's found Graham on his own. Graham down the line. Well done, though, by the Crows. Gunston. It was a poor kick by Graham, and then Gunston just had an absolute moment there. He played it more like Norman, didn't he? And now Doughty back to John Cott. Adelaide are a bit like the Keystone Cops at the moment, to be truthful. They're finding it hard to do anything with fluency. Now McKay to Tambling. They need a good moment before half-time. Tambling kicks to half-forward. Good strong Mark Thompson. Is that 50?
Play on! You came in board, play on!
So called to play on.
Across the ground he comes. Doughty collides there with Petrenko. 3 Saints left standing. Graham to Milne to midfield. Revolt. Nobody up ahead. Look at that. The deepest 2 men, both Adelaide players. Short one comes across to Del Santo. Dempster in midfield. Well, Petrenko effective enough. Payton pending, falling to the ground, gets a hand pass across to right to Dangerfield. Dangerfield slipping over was Jones, and Thompson takes the mark.
Gee, they haven't got too many of those where, in fact, if someone has marked the ball in the Crows forward 50 without a St Kilda player's hand against his body, they've got plenty of entries. The entries are the same. In fact, the Crows have had 2 more inside 50 entries than St Kilda, but their ability to find a set shot in there, St Kilda have had 9 of them. Crows very few.
Thompson coming up for his 13th possession, and probably as bad as any. Off hands and through for a minor score. Tim?
It's a good move to send Thompson forward too. He's had a good quarter of footy. He's up against Jones. Now they're turning Jones into a defender who's got to defend deep, and that's not his strong suit.
Good point, Tim, because he's looked a bit shaky, hasn't he? Thompson's taken 2 marks inside the 50. So there was a funny moment there. Otten's got it. Kick to Doughty. Sloan running hard. Now looks up and then goes to full forward. Doesn't really get it. And Polo. When Thompson took the mark, Moran led, wanted the ball exactly where he was 5 minutes ago when he didn't take the shot. You think, well, hang on a sec. Thompson missed, of course. So Adelaide really struggling here. Peak going back.
They're playing back-half football so much, St Kilda. They almost not prepared for the Crows to go there, but they get so many men back now to try and work the ball out.
Lee, it's 8 minutes since they've been inside 50, the Saints.
Yeah. Had a lot of possessions in that time, but haven't been able to get and penetrate.
No damage at all done on the scoreboard. So half-time approaching.
There's Armitage giving it back to Dawson. Tough times then for the Adelaide Crows. Not 15. Goddard slips it over the top. Taken by Fisher. Scrambles the kick out towards the boundary. Going back, a strong mark is taken by Vince. So little of the football. Coming up to his 3rd possession. Not memorable. Into the man on the mark. Schneider whips a hand pass to Jones to Montagna. 10 seconds to go in the term. And Revolt at centre-half back. I'm sure will be content to let the clock run down. Back to left half-back in Fisher. Siren. Such a disappointing half for Adelaide. Saw Neil Craig before the game. And he made the point that there were some signs last week that were giving him hope. Well, they've dissipated tonight. 10-2-62, 2-5-17 at the major break, and the Saints running amok. 219 possessions to 154. It's only half time. So that's a big problem. Sure, St Kilda shear it around, but Adelaide unable to get the footy. You've got to get the footy. Tom?
Bernie, tough night so far. What's the plan second half?
Yeah, I think we're just being a bit slow to react, and pressure on the ball carriers dropped right off. So the last couple of weeks we've been good at that, and I think that's dropped off, so we need to lift that. And your own individual role, obviously. Sean Dempsey's running pretty closely with him. Yeah, I tried to go loose in defence, open up our forward line, and created a few scoring opportunities, so hopefully dragging him out might do that. Good luck for the second half. Saints totally in control in the first half of this game. John Cox straight to Stephen Milne.
Opening bounce of the second half. Petrenko. Dangerfield, that's a very high kick inside the forward 50, jostling at the back. It falls in front to Graham though. Jones got out again along the boundary line, and this one I think, no, I was going to say out of bounds on the full, not quite, off the hands and then bounces out.
It's a bit of a numbers game, isn't it, with the St Kilda midfielders? They've tried to play tight on Montagna, but then Goddard and Del Santo get off the leash. There's too many of them.
Jacobs taps it down. Del Santo, peak. He's been in good form recently too. Gilbert, Polo, making his mark tonight. He goes down towards half forward. In from the side, trying to punch there. The two-fisted punch away by Vince didn't work too well. Montagna paddles it across to the danger man. He misses. Can't believe it. He's got 3 goals.
Could have been a great opportunity there for Bernie Vince to build some confidence straight up off the back and take a contested mark across half-back. Went for the double-fisted pump, went over the back, and it was almost a disaster. So bereft of confidence at the moment, Bernie.
Here's his kick-in, Tom, with John Cox. This is what you and Luke were talking about at half-time. This is what confronts him.
We get a good look. There was a huddle there just inside the 50 and the spread from the Crows, and on this occasion choosing to push very wide. Quite a safe kick-in, but then it puts a lot of pressure again on this second one. You need a result on the second kick.
Lee, they started Dangerfield in the midfield, and Thompson started forward in the forward 50. So just a little switch here for the Crows.
Well, they have been winning the ball reasonably well, but their ability to maintain possession just been making too many errors and turning the ball over before they've got a chance to get into the scoring zone.
It's Adelaide's lowest half-time score against the Saints since a fateful day at Moorabbin in 1991, when Pluggett destroyed them, and they won by a record margin, the Saints. So got to go back 20 years since they've kicked such a low score in their first season against St Kilda. It's the Crows' first season, so it's a pitiful scoreline for them at the moment. Jacobs, Petrenko, well played, and a good handball to Symes, to Vince. Just took one, should have used his left foot, one step too many, and then the handball from Schneider, not great, and then Vince back turns, but then coughed it up with a poor handball. Tambling backtracks, tries to break the tackle, ball up.
Go through, go through.
Big 3 weeks coming up for the Crows. Friday night tonight, Port Adelaide next week, Brisbane in Brisbane.
Every player in virtually 25% of the field, this forward quarter there.
Jacobs did well with strength, knocked it down. Del Santo runs it to the line. 63 plays 17, early going third term. So Neil Craig, I'd say, not the most humbling day of his life, but it's got potential. Ball up inside the 50.
Been a few Wendy Dengs as well that have been party poopers for the Saints.
We needed somebody to jump very high. That was impressive, wasn't it? Vertical leap. Wouldn't you like your own woman to do that? If you were challenged by, what did he have, a cake?
It was one of those sort of shaving cream pies, I think. You come from about 4 deep.
Okay.
Great defensive act.
Ex-volleyballer, she is.
Do you reckon you're motivated by team wealth, as they say? I'm not sure my wife would move.
Plenty of motivation there.
I reckon. Tambling paddles the ball along and taken to the ground. And the umpire just lets them play. Polo, Montagna, down goes Del Santo. Did that come off the boot there of Dowdy? It did.
Take the ball on the line. Take the ball
So nothing much going right. I guess if she was Rupert's age, she would have struggled to get up quite so high. Here's Gilbert. Long ball to full forward. John Cock and also Jacobs in the front.
Dempster's kick. Dempster's kick. No, not yours and you, mate. Wasn't you. Got him high. Sean, one to your right. Thank you. That's it.
So there's the high tackle coming over the top, Bernie Vince. Not a whole lot in it, but you can see it there. So Dempster, just a couple of goals. He's played 30 consecutive matches. He's had a good run. That's not a good kick. And this game really struggling at the minute, isn't it? I mean, the Saints sitting on a 8-goal lead, basically, and Adelaide just can't get that scoreboard ticking over at all.
The ball's been stuck in one flank forward pocket for about 2 or 3 minutes.
So John Cock to bring it in. Just a question for you, Tom, without notice. I mean, I've been labouring the point about Bernie Vince and his record against the Saints as the ball comes outside the 50 off the hand of Jacobs. Revolt back there. Ray, Jones, ungainly looking kicking style. Result not good either. There's Vince. Give it forward to Sloane. He comes again to Vince. Gets it back from Tambling. Kicks to midfield. Charging the ball, Gunston. Unkind bounce. Great evasion from Clark. Clark 65 metres out. Sends it down to a 3-on-1. 3-on-2 though. And the 2 hits the post. That's Gamble. He arrived and just gathered the ball nonchalantly, but got the fat bit. I was just going to say, Tom, was there a club that you found difficult for any particular reason? Montagna misses wide right, just sneaks it through for a bind. I guess it's a lot to do with personnel, but does it get into your head after a while?
Oh, I think it certainly can. There are definite matchups, and we saw Bernie Vince on picking a couple of weeks ago from the Dogs. Perhaps it's been Dempster over a period of time, but St Kilda Jones also. St Kilda as a club typically are very hard to get a kick against, and we heard from Ross Lyon that their change in momentum this season has been on the mantra, just be hard to play against, and Bernie Vince is finding that out firsthand.
So John Cock to Sloane. So Adelaide having trouble getting it out of the back 50 here. Saw the Saints spend a lot of time in their back 50 late in the second quarter, but unfortunately for the Crows, they couldn't get anything on the board. So Sloane, a defensive kick to the boundary line. Gee, do I dare ask Lee that same question?
I don't think there was anybody. I picked on Tom.
Everybody I played in my last year was the best player ever.
And they got better as you got slowly.
Absolutely.
So Jacobs down. Thompson's tackle okay on Jones. And then Thompson in hard with Armitage. Still not coming out that ball. Who's got it? I can't tell.
Make a genuine attempt.
One of those things that is sort of part of modern footy. We lose the footy, don't we? We know the ball's in there somewhere, but we can't see it. There's so many bodies around it and on it.
So Armitage to Graham, and then Graham to Fisher. The Saints just so much in control here. That kick to Gilbert. And then Gilbert with a quick step and a poor kick. Second time tonight, he did a poor kick earlier in the first half, coming out of the defensive. I think he kicked it straight to Moran, didn't he? Who didn't have the shot. But
it's interesting because Gilbert, with so much ball across half back, still only has 7 possessions. Jones to Milne, put it in the record. He's got 4.
There's a lot of things haven't gone wrong with the Crows tonight, but some of those turnovers and just simple ball skill errors have been quite woeful. I mean, so much of St Kilda's score, I think, has gone really from Adelaide turnovers that have just completely given the goal back to the Saints. They are really having a very poor night.
To see Bernie Vince, we spent a lot of time talking about him. This is a terrible turnover. Now, subs have been used for injury in the light lead. Does there come a point in time in modern footy where you drag a player?
Well, it depends what the reason is. I think Bernie Vince just has to fight his way back into the game. I mean, sometimes players want to be protected and mollycoddled. He's just got to fight.
So Army's got a high one. And quickly on to Koschitzki. Sloane coming in. And then Cozzy. He releases Schneider, who's within range, and does it beautifully. That was sweet. He's got 4.
Great balance here. St Kilda have been building, no doubt, we've spoken about over the last month or so. And with that momentum coming up against a side that now is lacking the hope, lacking the energy you speak about often, just compounds the result. This is, what are we up to now? 61 points. And starting to look, well, it's beyond looking ugly. It's very ugly.
And this is beginning to look ugly. St Kilda just doing as they like. Now, I reckon there's been a shift in their strategy too in the coach's box since they lost Lenny Hayes. Dempster playing that defensive role. They only had the one defensive player last year in Jones. They've now got two. They've lost one star midfielder. But what they're doing is they're blunting two of the star midfielders in the opposition side just to make up that difference.
Otten trying to give it to Sloan. Sloan was taken high. No free kick. Through the legs of Otten. Pandurlo goes into help. And the umpire calls for it. So ugly, the operative word. And this term has started as the first one did, with Milne and Schneider getting the goals, 4 apiece. Don't need much variety when guys are on song like that, as they say in the classics. Variety for jukeboxes. Here's Milne going in another one. He's got it. No, he hasn't. He's missed. Just missing to the right-hand side. Well, it's open season now, and the Saints are really scenting it.
We spoke a bit about Bernie Vince. He virtually has been playing back pocket, and Dempster's going with him. I don't think that's a good part of the ground for him. Get nervous in defence, get him up in the midfield, and he just has to try and find some footy against Dempster.
So Van Berlo out wide, looking for Gunston. Finds a good mark, Gunston.
2 minutes, ref!
So then Gunston into the man. Clark held up, and Gilbert. Now Mark quickly picks. You're a brave man to put the headset on. I think this is really disappointing. I mean, have you got anything up your sleeve at the moment? Are you going to damage control here or what?
Sorry, Bruce, you just broke up. Can you ask that again?
Do you sort of go into damage control a bit here, or what do you do from this point on, Mark?
Oh, well, just at the moment, we just tried to get some sort of control. Just got someone behind the footy, but just need to try and stop the momentum at the minute. They just can't get their hands on it. So just need to try and slow the play a little bit.
Just stay with us for a sec. Gamble inside, Milne back, Del Santo and Tambling back to Vince. Back they go. High tackle on Milne. Baller. Mark, what was Craigie's message at half-time?
Oh, look, we just need to stay competitive. Our problem has been our execution, our ability just to be able to do the basics and the fundamentals has been really poor, to kick and to take a simple mark. So we just had to do that better, but just keep our competitive spirit, try and get at them and just rush them a bit more. But we haven't seen that yet.
Mark Dennis here as you move the ball across half-back. Just a question. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was Damien Hardwick that said he'll just forget about that game completely. Your players have had a lot of negative feedback, I guess, watching tape. What do you do with a game like this one?
Well, it's not over yet, Dennis. We just play this out.
Mark, I think it's over.
No, what I'm saying is I haven't actually thought about what we do with it until we actually finish and we get a chance to decide. Yeah, so anyway.
OK, thanks, mate. Mark Beckley, we thank him very much. Well, it's not over technically. He always had that attitude, Mark Beckley. That's what made him such a great player. But he's a St Kilda captain going at his third. He hangs it out to the right. Poor kid.
The problem with when you get a player behind the ball, then you can't get it out of that area. And you try to sort of stem the flow by having that spare man back. But all it means is the game is being played in St Kilda's forward half.
Well, the challenge was when they didn't have the player behind the ball, they still couldn't get it going forward. So they now have actually made that problem probably more pronounced than it needed to be.
So John Cock finding Jacobs. Saw Smith warming up, the substitute. Jacobs tip at the target and good mark. Had a couple of shots on goal, missed them both. That's not a great kick. Cut off by Schneider. Geez, been up Schneider, hasn't he?
Well, that's been the Crows' problem. How many times have they actually kicked the ball to the opposition or fumbled when they had a chance? They really have been poor in their ball skills tonight.
So Peak actually hasn't been an inside 50 to the right of screen. I mean, that one went back with the Saints for the last 25 minutes and the roof's over the top. So there's no real reason for this at the moment, but St Kilda completely dominating this quarter. Armitage taken down on the tackle. And Adelaide's energy levels are just so low, aren't they?
Well, it's a double-edged sword. So St Kilda on top of their game. They've been gaining momentum for the past month or so. So they're really confident. And they've come against a side now that looks quite sapped of all hope and energy. So the end result is a convincing scoreboard.
Del Santo with the right boot down towards the pocket. Gamble could have been held. Arriving quickly, Polo. Then Burlow slipped a hand pass away. Symes stood up. Petrenko goes back to Talia, who was almost in the grasp of Dempster before the ball arrived. Petrenko again knocks it out wide. Montagna tracks it towards the line. So just for a moment or two, a bit more spirit from the Crows. Wonderful tackle a minute or so ago from Van Burlow. Didn't get in the back of his opponent. Just took him to the side. Great technique. Well done by McAvoy. Down to Del Santo. Vacant goal square. Another behind. They add to their lead. Rutten tracks it back. So it's 12-9 to 2-5.
I think we're all looking, and the Crows coaching staff will certainly be looking, which of their players can actually sort of show some spirit and some fight when there's a bit of pessimism going on about their performance. I mean, that's what your leaders have to be doing in this situation.
Well, you want some energy also, and we spoke about the kick-ins at half-time. Sometimes it's quite tangible, visible energy. On that occasion, the Crows didn't work hard enough on the kick-in.
Stephen did a good job, hands and knees. Montagna to fetch after Dawson had got it out. Ball in dispute. Graham head over it, wins it to Peake. Peake backtracks because it was the way to go. Back to Gilbert, releases him on a good side, being a left footer. Lovely kick inside, looked up and then gave to Polo, to Stephen, lace out. That's good stuff. And Stevie Milne, who only Matthew Lloyd has kicked more goals at Etihad than Milne. In fact, he's within 9 of Lloyd and closing fast. Might be 8 actually. I think he's 291 here, and Lloyd on 299. So
yeah. That's just a lead into space. John Cobb just, we'll talk about in a minute.
So Milne kicks a handful. He's got 5, and he is a handful, isn't he? Right from the go tonight.
All night we've been wondering about that John Cobb playing on Milne on the full back line. Just looking at John Cobb, he hurt himself last week, but I'm not quite sure how aerobically fit he is. They look like they're just trying to keep him away from the half-back line because the running power is obviously less when you're on the full-back line. That's the only thing I can think of why he's deep rather than upfield.
Well, the Crows have made a change. Brodie Smith has been activated. You see him on screen there, number 33. And Symes has been handed the unwanted red vest.
Bounce back in the middle then, knocked down by Jacobs. Dangerfield went down. Del Santo the high ball. Getting into the hole in front of Riebold is Otten. Goes across the ground. Here's the sub. Immediately into the action. Smith on the defensive 50. Goes to Rutten. Rutten, that's a nice measured kick. Right half back, and John Cock wants to go. Kicks beyond the wing. That too was nice. Jacobs. Petrenko runs into a dead end. Throws it in reverse. Goes across the ground. Thompson. Looks down towards half forward. Thompson straight to Del Santo. And Del Santo just stealing across in front of the intended there. That was Dowdy. Now he comes to Kozetzky. Dashing back deep. Well, it was on for Schneider, still might get it. Working at the back, slips a hand pass away to Gamble. Gamble comes to Milne, loves this shot across the body, hooks it and puts it through. He's got 6.
I'm really liking the combination between Ryan Gamble and Schneider at the moment. They're almost playing interchangeable roles. Off half forward, one alternates deep as the other one pushes up, and there seems to be a good balance at the moment. Fundamental problem for the Crows is they don't have the small defenders to match up on the small St Kilda forwards.
Yench is out as well. Yes. Excuse me, but John Cobb Yench 2 out of the back half, aren't they?
Well, we mentioned earlier when he got 2 or 3 goals, 3 goals in the first quarter, Stephen Milne. So often when he gets himself going early, I was here one night in the opposition coaching box when he kicked 11 in 2005. I don't know whether he's going to get that tonight, but he's on song.
Well, that's obviously his career high, Lee. So 11 against the Lions, but he's kicked 6 to the left of screen tonight. And he's got the taste. John Cock belted rather than marked. And then Stephen run down, Milne, and then Thompson. Back to John Cock. And then up and under, close to the line, Jacobs and Kazutsky. So there's the throw from Thompson.
Been in the press a bit, the throw.
Yep, it has. So Adelaide having one of those nights, eh? Sloane. They had one of those halves last week, and they're having it tonight. Tippett, Ray. Back to Montagna. Cut off by Dangerfield to Sloane, to McKay, and finds Henderson in the heart of the centre square.
Henderson plays on immediately, wheels around, it's 2-on-1. Well, the one got under the football, that was Moran. In fact, there's 3 back there now. Clark all the way back to Fisher. He'll use Clark again. Clark in space. Moran works hard, brilliantly done. Oh, that's outstanding.
Go through, go through. Thanks, Ref.
Absolutely inspirational. Mind you, they'll need a bit from here. But that was wonderful with the scoreboard. Moran, you wouldn't expect him to do that.
We haven't seen it too often, have we? There's been so many St Kildas in their back 50. I don't think Ralph Clark thought that the Crows were into tackling tonight, because they've had the first one we've seen. Changed their game plan, he thinks, all of a sudden, Ralph Clark. Thought the game plan was not to tackle.
Well, it's hard to tackle when you've got the foot.
That's true.
Brad Moran then gave up a shot at this distance at the other end. Slides this one across the face and goes through for a behind off a body down there.
He is one of those players, Ralph Clark. He needs a rear vision there, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He'd be a higher draft pick if he'd had that rear vision coming in.
But as I said, seriously, there's been so little tackling pressure from the Crows. It's almost a surprise there was someone there to tackle.
So Dangerfield, Henderson, Thompson's a poor handball, and then Graham. And belted back by Smith. Down low, Jones. Can't get the kick, so Adelaide putting some pressure here. And now Montagna with a raking kick out wide. Just ricochets off McAvoy. Sloane down low, and his handball just missing the target, and a boundary throw in.
Problem in this situation, of course, Bruce, is when you try harder, as Adelaide seem to be doing, you're almost condemned by your own actions.
Yeah. You feel like you're condescending and calling it almost, the way that first half. Now so far back at the moment. Dangerfield pressing forward. Henderson getting it to about 20 metres from goal. Tippett made a good contest. And then Peake puts the tackle on. And the ball still in dispute.
On the ball! You dragged it in. On the full here. You dragged it in, it's holding the ball.
So against Wright, who's had a very quiet night.
I've got to say too, Tom, I know how high you are in your praise of Matthew Scarlett, who's back in the Geelong team this week, but Sam Fisher might be just that one notch down. I mean, he's a great player.
Oh, he certainly is, and we spoke about him during the call and the role that Chad Corns played on him against Port Adelaide. He gets high, 20 possessions a game. Need to put some genuine effort into him defensively. The best way to go about that is to channel your forward four-ways through him, which I think the Crows tried to do with Patrick Dangerfield early, but that can only work when you're getting the ball inside your forward 50.
Fact is, with him, he's a good attacking defender, but he can defend as well. So you can't exploit him by lack of defence.
Well, we saw him moments ago, wonderful courage going back into that pack. There's Tippett, full revolution. Ralph Clark getting plenty of the ball. Comes running away. Could go by hand to Graham. Decides to go across the ground instead. And the mark is taken by McAvoy. Back to Clark.
By all measurements in the past months, St Kilda have been actually the second best side in the competition. We're starting to see them get back to some really good form, and it's built on defence. We heard Ross Lyon talk about it. He just said we want our boys to be hard to play against, and certainly have been tonight.
Ultimate compliment for the Cats. There's McAvoy on the outer side. Now they're almost up by 100 possessions. I mean, that's remarkable. Currently at 308, Adelaide at 213. So in percentage terms, out from three-quarter time, that's a massive differential.
So half forward. Ball still not coming out. And Polo brought down. Down to you, Tim.
Ross Lyon looks like he's got the cue in the rack too. Fisher, Sam Fisher, you see him there with the red vest on. He actually spent a lot of time with the medicos in the first half. I think he's got some sort of a leg injury. He's now been subbed off and Geary's on.
So Geary gets his first run this season. He broke his leg early in the year. That's a lovely kick from Petrenko coming out to Henderson to Tambling. Well, he broke the tackle in a fashion, and now Tippett had to get down so low, it's very untidy. Adelaide have had some bad matches this year. I think of Melbourne, I think of Port Adelaide, I think of Brisbane, North Melbourne here, but I just feel like about as low as they've been in a long, long time here tonight. Doughty inside, Van Berlo, and cut off by Goddard. So Goddard wide. Good kick. They're on here, Dennis. Look at this.
Kazitsky's got it. Montagna wants it next. Can take it, turn and run. We'll do all of that. Well, at least he'll try to. He juggled it initially, goes to Revolt eventually and still finds it. Great lead, well timed by Revolt. He almost factored in the fumble. It's sad to see such a great club as the Adelaide Crows virtually on their knees tonight. Revolt on the 50. Good bet against him for this one. Very close, played against the post by Jacobs. Big fist.
Get a good look here at the intensity. Look at Ryan Gamble chasing here, and Adelaide actually string up with a number of hand passes, but no one actually comes across and puts some body pressure on Ryan Gamble. Certain aspects of football take skill. Chasing doesn't. Not good enough.
Gee, we're talking about St Kilda's accuracy. 4 goals 8 in this quarter to a point. So they've blown it a bit. So Del Sando takes the advantage, and from a long way out, it's a behind.
It's been the St Kilda the type of performance. I mean, they've scored pretty well. They got their 14 goals, but just they've strangled the opposition. 2 goals 6. They just cannot score, the Crows. The back half and the defensive mechanism of St Kilda's have just prevented them at all in that part of the ground.
Well, the lowest score for the year, Lee, was North Melbourne, 30 points against Collingwood about a fortnight ago now. Yeah. Adelaide on 18 at the moment. 30 looks a long way away.
This is Smith. The defensive side of the wing. May need stuff in the last quarter, Bruce. Off hands. McKay can't gather it. Riley, that's a nice hand pass in. Van Berlo goes back. Smith goes forward. Armitage goes hard. Jarred out of there. Polo slips a hand pass away. Little one to Armitage. And Del Santo. Back it comes to Armitage. That was terrible. Close to the boundary line. Jones takes it across.
That's it. Keep adjusting.
They're trying to get numbers back, the Saints, weren't they? They had Milne was streaming forward, and I think screaming as well, but unable to see him in the end. So Moran doing the ruck work. Sloan and Jones. Sloan gets it out. Thompson back. Tambling. Back to Smith. Back to Petrenko. They'll come to Rutten, perhaps. No, that's a better option, actually. Dangerfield coming off the interchange. Dangerfield measures the kick. Otten and Graham are one-on-one, but look at the Saints' numbers everywhere here. Gilbert, they can raffle it. Clark, speaking of raffle. So, ref gets it back to Graham. To Dawson. To Peake. He's back in 2006 form, I reckon, Peake, when the Dockers were really good.
How about those total possessions now? Adelaide have got 236, and they trail St Kilda by 103. Not sure I've seen that too often.
You rarely see sides get less than 300, and in this form, the Crows might do that.
So Jones has got the footy, and we've almost got three-quarter time. Clock just running down. Jones goes back. I mean, this accounts for some of those possessions, but all over the ground they've just been winning the battles. Three-quarter time. Look at that. Well, if you're an Adelaide Crow supporter, look away now. 14-11-95, 2-6-18. This is Friday Night Football. Time, Bruce, all yours.
Thanks, Dennis. So, start of the final term, Friday Night Football, and a remarkable scoreline, 95-18. Adelaide without a goal since that opening term. Dowdy can't get through in a ball up.
Thanks, Michael.
So the milestone game for Graham Johncock and Brent Riley. 200 for Johncock, 150 for Riley. And it's leaving a sour taste. Just thinking about the Adelaide Advertiser in the morning and what might be on the front and back page. Dowdy to Jacobs. And then to Petrenko.
Downfield! Late bump, Adam Schneider. Have it, David. What? Wait. Sorry, Brent. Find the mark, David. Time back on. Come out, Milner.
So McKay. He's had his season ruined by that injury in the opening round. Gilbert sets himself, McAvoy. So no marking power forward for Adelaide tonight. Tippett, when he's gone for it, usually outnumbered. Now Stephen takes his time. Back he goes.
Oh, Graham!
Saints have lost 7 games this year, but 5 of the 7 losses are to the top 4. So you feel at the moment that they're only going to get beaten if they are by a very good team. They're playing good footy.
Kazetsky went to ground. This is Tambling across the ground to grass, really. Bounces okay for Dangerfield. McKay gets through, snaps at goal. Defensive mark in the last line, taken by Graham.
As silly as it sounds, Dennis, kicking to grass isn't such a bad option at the moment because St Kilda have been flooding back so much.
No, you're right. Graham. This is Geary, the sub, who replaced Fisher. So they're weak in the defence because Fisher, as always, having a very good game. Del Santo. So they're taking liberties now, the Saints. Del Santo tackled high. Maybe we should guess at that headline, do you think, Bruce, as this quarter goes on? It's stuff.
Please.
You know? I would go with 2 disappointing, the number 2, as things stand. Well, with me, Tommy, it's lateral.
I'm just, the mind's ticking over.
Yeah, it's pathetic. You're quite right. I can see that look of disdain on your face. There goes Gilbert towards the outer side.
I think I've just got it.
That's all right. What, the paper?
The headline, 2, as in 2 goals.
Ah, yes. But that could change. I've always wanted to say this. Hold the front page. Ball is on the outer side. Leading back in the race out there was Otten. In there is Peake. Tries to wrench it away from Petrenko. Well done, Otten. Gave it to Smith, to Thompson. Dangerfield in trouble, taken down. Kept it going, though. McKay, Thompson, Dowdy, McKay. They're going okay. Best stretch of the night, really. Now they need to do something constructive. Dangerfield gave it across to Sloan. Kicks inside the forward 50. Knocked down in front. Stolen away by Graham. And this could be a problem going the other way. Schneider, so much of the football against quality opposition there. Thompson stayed with him, did well. Sloan to Tambling.
Just backtracks for a moment. Back to Sloan. Had career high 29 disposals last week, Sloan. Now Van Berlo. She was a sloppy kick actually from the captain, but Rutten had some time. Comes wide and gets it to Petrenko. So Neil Craig already embattled in Adelaide, obviously. I think the board meet next week. Neil said during the week he felt that a decision one way or the other should be made at the end of the year. And Adelaide have actually got a good draw in. Nothing's a good draw right now, but they've got to play Port Adelaide, Brisbane, the Gold Coast and Richmond. So, and that's a live ladder. St Kilda right now are just about going to put Sydney out of the 8.
You mentioned, Bruce, yes, a good draw, but the pessimist says, well, that could actually be a disastrous draw as well.
Yeah, because if you don't get the wins, it's going to look awful. But right now, Adelaide will not be favoured against Port Adelaide in the showdown next week.
Dempster on the burst, searching kick inside the forward 50. What a beautiful ball. Leading Milne back with no margin for error. Here he goes again. That's his bread and butter. He's got 7. It's a little side shoe shuffle to his right and then back across the body.
The stage was set very early on in the game. St Kilda showed genuine intent. We heard Ross Lyon talk about it. Got the ball inside there, pretty open forward 50 to Stephen Milne straight off the bat. He kicked the goal, leading up on Graham Johncock. And confidence is a wonderful thing in footy, and those small forwards, having played a lot of footy against Stephen Milne, and he's up and about. absolutely as dangerous as any, and the Saints fans are loving him right now.
Just reads those long balls in really well when he's touching, and this come inside, right foot across the body. I reckon he prefers this than the straight kick.
It's the fourth time he's kicked at least 7 goals in a game, including that one Lee talked about when he got 11. It's a good mark by Armitage to Del Santo. That's a lovely kick. Gee, that was sweet to Gamble.
1 metre, Andy, 1 metre.
And Gamble decides to go to Montagna, to Polo. Looked up and wanted 50.
All right.
Polo's an interesting player, isn't he? I mean, he had 22 disposals against the Eagles last week. Tonight, this will be his 20th. A real recycled player. Had 1 or 2 fair seasons at the Tigers, fell out of favour. It's that old Sydney St Kilda rejuvenating some players, role model players, aren't they? Do one type of thing, get something out of them. And Polo kicked the goal. It's not going to make it. And it's a behind. Just back to Milne, he's a good barometer. Every time, and he's kicked 5 goals on 14 occasions before tonight. Every time he's kicked 5, they've won the match.
He's the type of player that, yeah, if he's kicking 5, he's not necessarily their primary goal kicker, although he is quite often. It means they'll usually kick a pretty good score.
Record books are out now as Petrenko kicks outside the defensive 50. Jacobs juggles the mark. The lowest score for the Crows, 31 points. Against St Kilda, 1991 at Narrabeen. There's Stevie Milne coming back. Bad things used to happen at Narrabeen sometimes. Adelaide wouldn't be happy with that, but they might erase that from the books tonight. Tambling. Interesting too, Bruce made the point about maybe St Kilda can push into the 8 as a result of this victory this evening. Interesting that clubs from 7 through 10 have all had 1 draw. And I would imagine that that's not lost on Ross Lyon. I'd be pushing for percentage as much as I could tonight. I hope he hasn't forgotten. They've all got draws around him. Feels right. I'm sure he has.
The best way to improve your percentage is to keep the score down from the opposition, isn't it?
Well, the percentage tonight's about 550, isn't it? With 102 to 18.
So the Crows just can't get it into a scoring position. Gilbert to cut it off. So that little jerky run out by Gilbert. Gamble worked to the front. That was well played. He read that so well off the boot. Gets it inside. It's a sloppy kick from Stephen. Good tackle, though. And now Smith's kick doesn't go far. It is play on. Petrenko went hard at the ball. Armitage got a high tackle. Not paid. And now he's going to go. He's a bit stiff.
No genuine attempt.
Come out.
Got a couple there. That's a difficult one.
So Moran.
Advantage.
Moran plays on. Sweeping hand pass to Riley. Riley goes inside the forward 50. Another wayward kick. McAvoy gets back. Takes the mark.
The defensive mechanism's back in place, and every time the Crows have gone forward, they've been outnumbered in their forward line. They just keep continually getting that extra defender back, which has been what they've done so well over this last 2 or 3 years.
Well, this last quarter really provides St Kilda with an opportunity to work on their ruthlessness. They've had a challenging year. They've got an opportunity to absolutely crush a side. And when you've been knocked about a little bit, particularly at the start of the year, you don't let opportunities like this to absolutely put the foot down.
Montagna goes back to Revolt. Revolt looks across the ground. Plenty to choose from. Deep in defence, McAvoy. Gives it across to Dempster. Dempster along the line finds Gilbert. Well, maybe this is some sort of tactical ploy this year because they've been a front runner in recent seasons. This time, they're coming from behind. Like one of those Chilean stayers, Bruce, that we know all about. There's Geary, comes wide, and the mark is taken by Montagna.
Might be right. They were 15th on the ladder, St Kilda, earlier this year. And yet tonight they could be in the 8. I mean, a couple more goals and keeping Adelaide to nothing. and they'll probably find themselves taking Sydney's spot. McAvoy got it from Polo. Stephen runs the full measure. That's a beautiful kick.
Another beautiful kick.
Sounds a silly thing to say, but the competition feels right when St Kilda are up and about.
With Revolt, Goddard, Del Santo, Montagna playing for them, you're right. And
Well, they got most of their good play. They know they lost Lenny Hayes early in the year. He was out for the year, but now they've got most of their good players playing well and therefore playing at their capabilities level.
I feel like Nick needs a bag, doesn't he? Just needs a big bag of goals. He's kicked 2, he's got 3. That's a good return. He's taken a lot of marks inside the forward 50. The Saints roll it on here.
It's been a really good matchup, that one, I think. I mean, Ben Rutten has been against the odds all night. He's probably been, at the very least, broken even. I'd suggest with Nick Revolt, he can be a player that can hold his head high. But also, I mean, having had the privilege to play on Nick Revolt a lot of time, his work rate is just second to none. So
it's taking his 13 marks.
Exactly right.
He continually gets there to receive, doesn't he?
13 marks, 3 goals.
There's the ladder at the moment. St Kilda have jumped close to 7% tonight, and they've gone above Sydney. 108 to 18. Interesting. Milne, Schneider and Revolt individually of all outscored Adelaide. There's a headline there somewhere. We'll work on that as well. No, we won't. Enough's enough.
There's a run home, Dennis.
Yeah. And all of them, well, I was going to say all of them eminently winnable. You'd say Collingwood would be tough, but at the same token, I mean, the way they're playing, if they win their next couple, people will look at that game with expectation. That's going to be suddenly a big game, despite the fact they're coming from a long way back. Here's Revolt again.
Gee, that Carlton clash in round 24 could be massive, couldn't it?
The Sydney one also round 22.
Yep. So the kick by Revolt misjudged by Van Berlo and falls into the hands of Montagna. Well, a record margin won't be broken tonight for the Saints, you wouldn't think, but interestingly enough, in 1991, St Kilda beat Adelaide by the most they've ever beaten them, 131. Adelaide's biggest win ever over St Kilda's 10 years later in 2001, and here, 10 years again, 2011, we're seeing an absolute shellacking. So this is a decade-like defeat at the moment. Bangs it through for another one.
Oh, dear.
That might be the headline, Dennis. Oh dear, I reckon that's about as much as you can say.
Well,
just dominating. Now, I thought in the first half, largely it was just the efficiency when they went forward at St Kilda. That was what got them the big lead. But in this third quarter and the fourth quarter, they have just dominated every aspect of the game.
Well, what do you do?
Deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah.
What it is at this point.
Starting the night, he'd won 4 out of 11 against the Saints. They haven't been good for him. 4 out of 12 now. Milne goes down. He came in leading with his head there, Milne. Slow to get up, but 7 goals will get you up. I know it hurts, but you got 7. Wow. Don't know what happened there. He just stumbled in and got whacked and was gone. Lee Montagna having a good game tonight too. Here's Jones, feeds it off, taken by Geary, comes across the ground. Gamble goes down towards half forward. Revolt leads under the ball. It runs back behind, taken by Dangerfield to Rutten. Needs support, not exactly forthcoming. Goes to Talia, tries to give it back to Dangerfield, out of bounds. And really encapsulated right there their night. Just talking about Lee Montagna, he played his first game against Collingwood on this ground, and the Saints scored 310 in that match. And that is the lowest score at, well, now it's Etihad. I think then it would have been, what, Colonial? You take a name. And I suppose that name would be in the record books. Is that the way they do it, Bruce, or does it just... Oh, that's a throw. Petrenko's got it. Do they change the name as they go along, so it's always Etihad Stadium now, Bruce?
You can do it either two ways, Dennis. Either way is correct, but we know this. We know which stadium it is.
Yeah,
but I'd like to stick with Colonial if it was Colonial, wouldn't you?
Well, yes, I would, as a matter of fact. I thought for a minute you were dissing me, Bruce, but now...
Well, Colonial would be pretty happy that they're getting a bit of bang for their buck after the use by Dave.
Here we are at Etihad Stadium, and Schneider takes the mark, and he's only about 35 metres out. He's kicked 4.
I think you'd have to call it the current name. Very confusing. You'd have that many names of stadiums. You'd be thinking, where are all these stadiums?
And I thought it was a dumb question. You blokes have just jumped in. It's terrific.
Well, I reckon I definitely remember a time at Geelong where it was Baytex Stadium. I reckon that lasted about 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, they had a problem with the Baytex, didn't they?
Apparently.
Apparently. Yes. Well, here's Schneider. Some of these players are going to get individual percentages on the league ladder tonight if this keeps up. Schneider comes in and kicks another one. He's got 5.
It becomes a bit gruesome as this game goes on, just what's the margin going to be, doesn't it? As soon as you get that 3-figure margin, the 100-point margin, then you know this is like quite gruesome in terms of the margin that the Crows have to cope with.
Now, Leon, I imagine it's a pretty lonely place in the coach's box with a loss like this. What goes through your mind?
Well, all of a sudden you feel powerless. The fact is everyone thinks you should be able to do something to assist out there. But when you're getting beaten in every position on the field, it is that incredible feeling of lack of power.
Can a side be dinkum and kick 2 goals in perfect conditions? Can they be really... I know everyone feels they try.
It will happen again, isn't it? I mean, I know the point you're making, but sometimes just things happen.
I know.
So Schneider out of the centre. Jones, short to Montagna. They've gone in for the kill, the Saints. It's been really impressive tonight. Good grab by McAvoy. To Peak. And that's not a great kick. We knew what he meant. Schneider just fished for it, but didn't have the right line working, did he? And Adelaide get the free kick. Adelaide have lost 8 matches by over 100 points. The record leads against your Lions, 141. They actually came back the next week. I think that might have been Craigie's first year. Came back and won the next week against North Melbourne on Friday night footy. But 8 losses by over 100. Saints have won 13 by over 100. About half of them against non-Victorian teams. That's in their long history, but this is a remarkable scoreline. And Neil Craig, the lowest score under Neil Craig, 41 points against Melbourne. They're not going to get there. So they're miles off that. Schneider's long ball. Revolt in Rutten's been the most interesting duel of the night. Boundary throw-in.
Yeah, I think Ben Rutten, Nick Revolt's had a lot of supply, and in saying that, he's had a pretty outstanding game himself with 14 marks, 3 inside, 53 goals. But Ben Rutten he can hold his head high.
Yeah, he's played like an All-Australian tonight in what's been a beleaguered defence. Wiley taken down by Mill, needs to be careful. Mill's still there with him. I think it's going to be a free kick. It is. So Mill, I'm guessing he starts out to his right.
You can mark it there if you like, please.
Staying with the tackle, Stevie Milne. There he goes. He's got 8. No, he hasn't. Or has he? Yes, he has. I thought for a moment it brushed the post. It's a goal.
It's only the second time that he's kicked 8. I mean, they're 11.
So I'm going to best it in. I'm hoping he kicks 12 tonight. So he's actually got another team that he's kicked his biggest score against. Did I say that as a best in? Yeah, best in. It's like that.
Yes. Self.
Yes, that's right.
That was St Kilda's biggest ever win, you know, that night again. Ever
no,
against
they
you
won
guys.
about 140 points.
139.
It was 12 months after I was playing in a grand final. Big drop.
So it's his second highest ever 8 goals in a match.
Ross Lyon will be really pleased about this. I remember playing in a game where we were playing for Geelong. We're up by a significant margin at 3/4 time. The message from Mark Thompson was we can actually create a real legacy by finishing off strong wins really well in the right manner in the last term. Certainly St Kilda have done that.
So Henderson cuts it off, and then Vince inside, tambling. Well done, Geary. And then Clark. Adelaide has never had a scoreless final term now. They've got a chance here to get something on the board. Wright comes back inside. Dangerfield's outnumbered. Attacked it hard. Graham to Goddard. To Armitage. Just off McAvoy. Back to Armitage. And a boundary throw-in. I always felt like Neil Craig would know when the time was right. Now, I don't know what goes through coach. I don't mind right now. I mean, he must think long and hard about tonight and the response from his players.
I think coaches rarely know when the time is right, Bruce.
You did. You walked away.
Yeah, well, it's rare. Rarely do coaches make the decision. Yep, history will tell us that.
Well, premierships give you a different sort of sense of time, don't they? Yeah. In both directions.
And he's not under contract too, which sort of probably doesn't cloud it too much, but it is a unique situation, isn't it, that he's not contracted.
Goddard to Polo, back to Goddard. I think the mob, we're talking about the supporters here as Jones goes across towards Ray. They'll put up with big losses, but I'm not sure they'll put up with lowest ever score. It seems sort of splitting hairs, but this really harms them if they've got to kick 2 goals for the night. I mean, the ego of an entire city will be put down because of this. I can just imagine the same thing happening in Perth, for example. Suddenly the city's in mourning for a few days.
And Dennis, on that, the 2 Adelaide teams between them have won 6 matches this year. Their previous lowest combined was 16. So they are 10 behind where they've been in their lowest before this. They'll get one next week between them.
Bruce, I love Adelaide. We can't whip them anymore. Come on, you Crows. There's Revolt. Likes him Kilda too. Talia goes back after the ball. Hand passes looking for Smith, who did pretty well with the body, as Revolt tried to hack it out of midair and played it against it. Well, Luke Hodge tipped it earlier tonight. He said they're back. Well, they seem all the way back, but this is a very hard one to gauge.
Look, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but it is worthwhile to acknowledge the contribution Graham John Cox made. He's playing his 200th game tonight, went to extraordinary lengths to get himself up to play this game. I'm led to believe, Bruce, he spent the night on Friday night, Saturday morning, recovering in ice baths, sleeping at the club, when he was obviously in a wheelchair at one stage on Friday night. So huge effort.
Yeah, spot on, Tom. He went back to the club at 3 a.m. Saturday morning, and Adelaide are going to score in the final quarter. They're going to get a goal. Oh, from nowhere. Was it Wright? I think it was. No, Henderson it is.
Good to see you can smile. So was that 30, the lowest score for the year, Bruce? North Melbourne, so 1 goal to go.
And Adelaide's lowest ever 31 and lowest ever under Craigie 41.
41 might be out of reach. 30 and 31 perhaps.
It's amazing, even in one game like this with a low score, that it manifests interest late. 31 points, Adelaide's lowest score all time. They need another 8 points. Kick down towards half forward, spills behind, Graham lays it off, Geary goes across the ground, storming up his Ray, and he takes the mark. Just over 3 minutes to go. Ray goes out wide. Stephen, quiet again, although better than last week. He's a good player though, Stephen. That's a lovely kick to Polo. As we said earlier, he's carving a niche in this side, Polo. The kick favoured Talia coming up the ground. Billo goes around the corner. Jacobs, the high ball towards the wing. With the run, Dempster, always his ball to destroy, and he puts it out of bounds.
Can you imagine this is round 24, and this is the final match of the, and they were trying to get into the 8. The Saints, every goal had hurt them.
Just the top 4. You have to go for Milne. 8 goals, fantastic. Del Santo, I think, has been the best of their midfielders. McAvoy's been great in the ruck. Snyder, 5 goals as a forward. He's been good. Rewald, Goddard. They've had many, many good players, however.
We're with the highest ranking Crows player being that order.
Give it on the full,
Lee, what are you getting from this match? Are you getting that St Kilda's a really decent team, or?
I'm more that the Crows are at a really low ebb.
Okay.
I mean, St Kilda are in a good patch of form. 7 of their last 9, no doubt about that. But I think the Crows are really had a bad night.
Well, Dawson's had more luck on Tippett than he had twitted, didn't he? So he's done well tonight. Back he goes, Geary. Poor old Geary's played about 45 games. And I think Ross talked to Tom about how many games he's played over the last few seasons, because he's never played a final, let alone a grand final. He's never played one final, Geary. 50 metres against Tamblin.
Time back on. 2 minutes straight on the mark, Richard. Got the contest.
Down to 2 minutes now. Clark on the outer side. Gamble.
Really complimentary with Schneider, I think. Gamble pushing up and allowing Schneider to drift forward.
Nice mix, isn't it? Nice centering kick too. Sloan grabbed hard by McAvoy, kept on coming. Polo's got the football. Petrenko's got him. And the umpire will ball it up about 25 metres out. So we're talking about lowest scores ever for Adelaide. Looks like they're going to register it tonight. And this is their 480th game. So it's an accomplishment of sorts. Not that you want it, and not that we wish it on them. Sloan got hit by a teammate behind the head there, and the umpire moves in to ball it up.
One of the real disappointments, and Luke mentioned it at 3/4 time, they've still only had 49 tackles, Adelaide. They've had so much of the ball, St Kilda, but the Adelaide just haven't been able to lay the tackle at all.
Adelaide got the last goal, but the Saints are still in the 8, and we've got another ball up.
Just having a look at those stats, 163 marks St Kilda have taken at the moment. That's 70 more than the Crows. That's just a genuine lack of accountability on Adelaide's behalf.
It's been 6 miserable quarters, hasn't it? I mean, Essendon kicked 10 goals to 2 last week in the second half.
Yeah, if you count last week's second half as well.
And 19 goals to 3 here. So just, it's all fallen apart. So Revolt's high ball in. Good contest. Armitage was at the back. Sloan battling away. Then Doughty.
Contact.
So it's a free kick to Doughty.
Thanks, Nick.
So I can imagine back home the build-up to the Power and the Crows this week. It's going to be a knife edge, because whilst they're right down in the bottom 4, both of them, you feel like for the loser there's going to be a very, very heavy price to pay. In a way, it's going to have an edge about it that's a lot better than if both these teams were about 10th and 11th on the table. You feel like it's going to be a real battle to the end.
I'm going to watch that now. I wasn't, but I'll tune in, Bruce. You sold me.
It's not on 7, unfortunately.
I don't care. I'll watch it.
It probably is, actually. I think it might be on 7 and 8. Anyway, keep going.
Sorry, I took you down that track, Bruce. There's Otten with the football. Dying seconds of the game. Just a centering ball. Petrenko has it. Petrenko runs away. These things, of course, are secular and sickening. But the worm will turn. Gunston goes back across the ground. But for tonight, St Kilda have prevailed in wonderful fashion. And what a turnaround. I mean, in so much trouble at the start of the season. And you've got to say that Ross Lyon simply hung tough. He acknowledged the problems, and it's just work to get them better. And Adelaide register their lowest score. They lose by 103 points. Stephen Milne has a night he'll remember. And even a goal here, this will only tease them. If it is a goal, it would have meant that they were 1 point short of their lowest ever score, but it's not. Punched away on the goal line, and that just says everything that needs to be said about tonight. St Kilda 19-13, 127, Adelaide 3-6. The night belongs to the Saints.
Martians both in the 8 and down the bottom. Tim Watson's down with the man of the night, Stevie Mills.
I mean, on the 8 goals, congratulations, a great effort. You had the ball on a string tonight.
No, it was a good team effort. We wanted to start well, and we did that. And the first full quarter effort we've probably played all year, so it's a good game.
You started well. That must have been great for you.
Yes, I always try and start well and get us off to a good start. So, as I said, first full quarter effort we played and starting to build some momentum.
What will Ross Lyon be most happy about with this performance tonight?
As I said, probably the 4 quarters. Everyone played their role, and we're not relying on 5 or 6. I think everyone's playing their role, and it's good. 22 players are playing their role and playing their structures. So it's a great team effort.
And keeping them just to 3 goals, I mean, that's an amazing, really defensive effort.
Yeah, defence has been great the second half of the year, so they got hit up the first half, and I think after the first half of the year we got hit up, and the last 6 or 7 games have been really good.
And has that been the best the forward line's functioned this year? You got 8, Snyder got 5, Revolt got 3.
Yeah, we're trying to, spend a bit of space away from each other, and, Graham Johncock's been in really good form, and Rutten as well, so to get on the scoreboard was a good result.
Well done.
Thanks, Tim.
39 goals for the year for Stevie Milne. He's averaged 55 goals the last 3 seasons, so it's a great return.
Yeah, no, he's a very talented player, and when he's on, I mean, there's very few small forwards can kick your 8 goals, and he's done that, at least that twice.
Lee, it was fantastic to hear from Nick Revolt at half-time. We're going to hear from him now after the match with Jim.
That's a fantastic defensive effort. I know I spoke to you at half-time, but to be able to maintain that for 4 quarters, outstanding.
Yeah, the defence was good. Probably, we scored pretty heavily, which is, everyone comes for us and talks about our defensive side, but I think the way we, we're able to use it in transition tonight, it's really, really pleasing as well.
Do you reckon that's the best you've played on the rebound this year?
I think it's probably the most consistently we've played. I think we've shown in patches that we're capable of that, and that's more the footy that I think we've been respected for over the past few seasons, so it was nice to do it for 4 quarters tonight.
And back in the 8, I mean, that's amazing given the start you had to the year.
Yeah, it is. I think what are we, 7 of the last 9 or something like that, so we were challenged, and that's a sign of a good team to be able to rise and to achieve in the face of adversity, and we were certainly under a lot of pressure, but it's been about consistent effort and preparation, and we've found ourselves out of a little bit of a hole now. Still plenty of work to do, though, obviously.
Did you ever stop believing as a group?
Oh, look, I don't think so. I don't think you as a team, are able to do what we've done over the past couple of months. If you do stop believing, you have times where the confidence is shot and stuff like that. But we've worked hard to dig ourselves out of a hole. It's about capitalising on that now.
I'm holding up. Thanks for your time.
Right,
Thanks, Tim. Thank you to Nick. So it's the lowest score ever that Ross Lyon's Saints have kept a team to. It's the lowest score ever by any team of the Docklands. And probably most significantly, it's the lowest score in the history of the Adelaide Football Club. That's the story of Friday night footy from Anyhow.